If you only knew the power of the dark side, it is your destiny.
Hello everyone, this is Take the Gate. It is May 30th, 2014, and I'm going to report on some stories out of Indiana for all you Indianapolis people that may or may not be followers of my blog. So let's get this started. There were shootings in Indiana, specifically in Indianapolis, over the last 2 days, and I'm going to play you some of these clips really quickly.
We're following breaking news this morning on the east side. One person of interest now in custody, and police continue to look for another suspect after shots were fired at two state police troopers overnight. The search for the suspects took place near 30th and Midhofer. Sunrise reporter Matt McCutcheon is live at the scene with the very latest. Matt?
Now I'm going to wait for that to load up a bit so I can show you some more. Now, it says that the two Indiana state troopers were fired upon by suspects in a vehicle that they stopped at 21st Street and Midhofer. They were driving a Cadillac. The Indianapolis State Police were in a Tahoe. The Indiana State Police were in an unmarked Chevy Tahoe, and they saw the Cadillac driving, and they tried to stop this Cadillac, and it returned fire. And they were being shot at with a rifle. And it says that multiple rifle shots were fired at the Chevy Tahoe that the state troopers were driving that was unmarked. So I'm going to go back to this statement so you can actually see what happened.
Actually, the road just reopened here after everything unfolded. Police say that there was two people acting suspicious inside a white-colored Cadillac in the apartment complex about a mile away. Police tried to...
As you can see there, I'm going to go back here and let it load again. There is a rifle that was stuck in the guardrail of the highway. And it looks like the rifle was broken down so that they could actually stow it there and they could get away with the rifle butt. For whatever reason, that's the lower receiver of the weapon, and the weapon looks like an AR-15 or AR-15 type rifle. So if it was semi-automatic or fully automatic, I don't know. And there are various different nuances to that. But what I do know is that they decided to discard the upper receiver into the guardrail. And that is what was recovered or seen at the scene that the news media has a photograph.
Reporting on the east side, one person of interest now in custody, and police continue to look for another suspect after shots were fired at two state police troopers overnight.
It looks like the picture just in...
So that is a picture of the rifle, as you can see right here. You can see the end of the upper receiver, and it is not a lower receiver attached to that. So whether or not the police planted it or not, I don't know. They took one suspect into custody, two at large, and they have not charged the one suspect that they do have in custody, and they feel that they are going after one specific suspect who returned fire to the police, and the police shot back. So this is one thing that happened in Indiana. Now I'm going to another story. An officer was shot, and 3 people are dead. 2 women and 1 shooter. The officer returned fire, and thankfully he's alive today. And the officer that you see here wants to prevent people from being able to defend themselves in these types of situations. So I'm just going to let this play a little bit. See what
It is a message that is ringing clear here in Indianapolis. Our city is dealing with one of the most violent years on record. We've had crews at the scene all morning long, gathering information about what happened, the police officer shot, and what saved his life. Our coverage begins, though, at noon with new information about the police officer shot. Eyewitness News.
So I'm going to give you some information about the police officer that was shot. If you do follow other channels, which I do, I follow W77, which I try to emulate in some way, shape, or form for stories that I don't think are getting enough media attention. And in one of his most recent reports, it said that rifles and shotguns added up together to the equivalent of about 607 deaths or murders per year in the year of 2012, as the FBI statistics state. So why people would go around blaming guns in our community for our own protection, they won't go after, which are the more multiple homicide use weapons, such as knives, hammers, and fists. So where are the parents, as he said, for those people? No one knows. But irregardless of that fact, we have 3 dead and this officer who was shot at. His name is Greg Milburn, and he is a 12-year Metropolitan Police Department veteran. And he was able to survive the shooting after being ambushed. And thankfully, he was alive, and his family and son could go visit him in the hospital. The victims were identified as 84-year-old Julia Morrow and 30-year-old Indy Morrow. They do not have a clear idea of the relationship between all 3 of these people involved. The shooter, I assume, is Quintico Goolsby, and he was killed in the confrontation. So I'm going to take you to another story out of Indiana, and it is Indiana's refusal to comply with the PREMA Act, Prevention of Rape Elimination Act, Prison Rape Elimination Act. And the Prison Rape Elimination Act was supported bipartisanly in Congress in 2003. And maybe necessarily this is a middle finger to the federal government, but Indiana, Texas, Idaho, and Arizona and Utah wrote letters of non-compliance to the federal government that they will not comply with this act, that it is too difficult to compile the statistics between all the prisons in those states and facilities. Indiana has 25 facilities and 115 lockups, and they will not compile a report, as the law states. They will not comply. So if this was, like the Bundy standoff, this is the Bundy standoff light for these states against the federal government. So as you can see, the federal law allows to withhold 5% of the grant money if the states do not comply, which is a drop in the bucket. Now, the federal government's position on this says eliminating prison rape is a priority for the United States Department of Justice because we believe that sexual abuse is a crime and it should not be punishment or crime. And I concur. So this is rape by the state. And we have another story out of Indianapolis. A couple froze to death for refusing to put in a smart meter. A couple froze to death in Terre Haute, Indiana. They were found in April, and no mailman came by the house that this mail piled up and decided not to call attention to it. It took a relative that called concerned about the safety when no one answered the door at the home. Vigo County coroner ruled the deaths of 51-year-old Daniel Young and 53-year-old Donna Young accidental. And they were nothing but accidental. They were democide. So they would not take a smart meter, which also I think means the electricity that emits radio frequency information in their house due to whatever kind of sensitivities they might have towards radio wave electromagnetic frequency bands. So some people are sensitive to RF and some people are not. So it says that the couple who has 6 children lived in a house built on the site in December, and a 2000 fire killed 1, and another child sustained burn injuries in that fire but survived. So I don't know whether there were children in this house when this happened, but you see here it says deputies found a gas-powered generator in the garage that was turned off. Both Youngs were wearing winter clothing, and Daniel was found wrapped in blankets. Their bodies were so cold, they stopped working. So the neglect by the state to compensate people who do not want smart meters or be on the electrical grid allows them to freeze to death and declare that an accident. So, this is Take the Gate. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.